Imagine waking up every single morning with an unshakable sense of calm. Imagine moving through your day without being thrown off by criticism, setbacks, or the chaos of the world around you. Imagine looking at your own death, your failures, your deepest fears, and feeling not dread, but clarity. This is not a fantasy. This is what Marcus Aurelius actually lived. He was the most powerful man on earth, the emperor of Rome, commanding millions of soldiers and billions in wealth. Yet every single morning he sat down and wrote private notes to himself, reminding him how to be a better human being. He never intended for anyone to read those notes. He wrote them for himself because the struggle to live well was real and daily and relentless, even for an emperor. Those notes became a book we now call Meditations, and inside that book are 9 rules so practical, so direct, and so psychologically sharp that they can genuinely transform the way you live. Not someday. Not when your circumstances improve. Right now, exactly as things are. So let us go through each of these 9 rules one by one, and let us do it the way Marcus would have wanted, honestly, without flattery, and without wasting a single word. Rule number 1 is this: control your judgments, not your circumstances. Here is something Marcus wrote that most people read quickly without letting it land. He said that you have power over your mind, not outside events, and realizing this is where your freedom begins. Most people spend their entire lives trying to rearrange the world to make themselves feel better. They want the right job, the right relationship, the right weather, the right response from the people around them. And every time something goes wrong, which it always does, they feel betrayed. They feel like life is doing something to them. But Marcus understood something that changes everything once you truly grasp it. Events do not disturb you. Your judgments about events disturb you. A traffic jam is not stressful. Your judgment that you should not have to wait, that your time is being wasted, that the universe is conspiring against you, that is what creates stress. The traffic jam itself is just cars on a road. A rude comment from a colleague is not an attack on your worth as a person. Your judgment that it is an attack, that it proves something bad about you, that it requires retaliation or rumination, that is what wounds you. Marcus practiced catching his judgments before they ran away with him. He practiced asking himself, is this thing that is upsetting me actually bad? Or have I decided it is bad? And once you start asking that question honestly, the answer surprises you more often than you would expect. Most of the things we call disasters are inconveniences dressed in dramatic clothing. And the things that are genuinely painful, real loss, real failure, real cruelty, those can be faced with much more steadiness when you are not also buried under a pile of stories. You are telling yourself about what it means. Rule number 2, do the next right thing, not the perfect thing. Marcus was the ruler of an empire during plague, war, political betrayal, and personal grief. He did not have the luxury of waiting for perfect conditions to act. And in his writings he kept returning to this idea: just do the next thing, not the ultimate thing, not the thing that will be remembered for centuries, just the next thing that is good and true and necessary. We live in a culture that worships grand gestures and breakthrough moments. We wait to start the project until inspiration strikes. We wait to have the difficult conversation until we find exactly the right words. We wait to begin changing our habits until Monday, until the new year, until life settles down. But Marcus knew that life never settles down. The Stoics had a phrase for this: amor fati, the love of fate, meaning not just tolerating what happens, but actively embracing it as the raw material of your work. The present moment, messy and imperfect as it is the only place where anything ever gets done. The person who acts imperfectly today will always outperform the person who waits for perfect conditions tomorrow. Rule number 3, see people as they are and help them anyway. This is one of the most counterintuitive rules in all of Marcus Aurelius, and it is the one that separates real wisdom from the shallow kind. He wrote that when you wake up in the morning, you should tell yourself that the people you will meet today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. And then he said, go help them anyway, not because you are naive, not because you think they are secretly wonderful, but because harming them or abandoning them would harm your own character, and your character is the only thing you actually own. This is such a mature way to think about human relationships. Most of us operate on one of 2 equally dysfunctional approaches. Either we expect the best from people at all times and feel constantly betrayed when they disappoint us, or we become so cynical that we close ourselves off entirely and treat every interaction as a transaction or a threat. Marcus chose a third path. He looked at human beings with clear eyes, saw their selfishness and their pettiness and their smallness, the same smallness he recognized in himself, and he chose to remain helpful, patient, and constructive anyway. Not because it was easy, not because they deserved it every time, but because that was the kind of person he had decided to be. Every morning you are going to encounter difficult people, people who are distracted when you need their attention, people who take credit for your work, people who are rude without knowing it or knowing it perfectly well. Marcus is saying, you already know this, so stop being surprised, stop being crushed, and keep doing good anyway, because the quality of your actions defines you, not the quality of the people around you. Rule number 4, Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. This sounds bleak. In our culture, we do everything we can to avoid this thought. We talk around death. We sanitize it. We push it to the edges of our awareness and focus on youth and productivity and the endless future as if we have unlimited time. Marcus did the opposite. He thought about death constantly. He wrote about it directly, unflinchingly, and without despair. He reminded himself that emperors and generals and philosophers who came before him, people who seemed invincible in their time, were now dust. Their names were barely remembered, their empires were ruins, and he himself would follow. But here is the thing that Marcus understood that most people miss completely. Remembering your death is not about despair, it is about liberation. When you truly internalize the fact that your time is finite and uncertain, something clarifying happens. The petty arguments stop seeming worth it. The grudges you have been nursing for years start to feel absurd. The thing you have been putting off, the phone call, the apology, the project that actually matters, suddenly becomes urgent. Memento Mori is one of the most powerful tools for cutting through the noise of daily life. Ask yourself right now, if this were my last ordinary Tuesday, would I spend it the way I am spending it? Would I carry the anxiety I am carrying? Would I hold the resentment I am holding? Or would I do something with more intention, more presence, more love? You do not need to answer that question with grand action. Sometimes the answer is as simple as paying attention to the meal in front of you, or actually listening to the person talking to you, or finishing the work you said you would finish. Death is coming for all of us. Marcus treated that not as a reason to despair, but as a reason to live now, fully, without delay. Rule number 5, do not seek approval, just do what is right. Marcus wrote extensively about the trap of reputation, of living your life for what other people think of you. He said that if you are pained by external things, it is not that they hurt you, but that you consent to being hurt by them. And one of the most common external things that hurts us is the disapproval of other people. We are tribal creatures. We evolved in small groups where being rejected could literally mean death. So the desire for approval is not weakness, it is ancient wiring. But in the modern world, that wiring often does more harm than good. It makes us say yes when we mean no. It makes us pursue careers we do not want to please parents we are afraid of disappointing. It makes us post things online not because we believe them, but because we want the validation that comes from agreement. Marcus, who had the eyes of an entire empire on him at all times, who could have had any amount of flattery he wanted, from any direction, kept reminding himself that the only court that mattered was the court of his own conscience. He wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." This is the rule that requires the most courage because disapproval feels terrible. There is no quick fix for that. But Marcus offers a reframe. Ask yourself not what people will think of this action, but whether this action is right. Those are two entirely different questions, and they almost never have the same answer. Over time, the person who acts from principle builds something the approval seeker never can, a stable sense of identity that does not depend on the weather of other people's opinions. Rule number 6, focus on process, not outcomes. Marcus campaigned for years in wars he did not choose, against enemies that kept coming back, in conditions that were brutal and grinding. He could not control whether he won every battle. He could control how well he prepared, how clearly he thought, how faithfully he kept to his principles even under pressure. The Stoics called this distinction the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, some are not. Our actions, our judgments, our intentions, These are up to us. The outcome, the results, how other people respond, whether the world cooperates with our plans, these are not up to us. And here is the painful truth that most motivational culture gets exactly backwards. You can do everything right and still lose. You can write the best proposal and not get the contract. You can be a loving parent and still have a child who struggles. You can make the healthiest choices and still get sick. Marcus didn't pretend otherwise. He knew the world is indifferent to our effort. But he also knew that the person who focuses obsessively on outcomes eventually destroys themselves because outcomes are not fully in their hands. The person who focuses on process, on doing the work as well as it can be done, on showing up with skill and integrity regardless of what happens, that person is doing the only thing that is actually within their power. And paradoxically, they tend to get better outcomes anyway. Not because the universe rewards virtue, but because disciplined, principled, consistent process simply produces better results over time than anxious, outcome-obsessed scrambling. Rule number 7. Guard your time like it is your most precious possession, because it is. Marcus was consumed by duties. He had an empire to run, wars to manage, a court full of people demanding his attention. And yet, he still found time every morning to sit quietly and write. He still found time to read philosophy, to practice reflection, to think clearly about what mattered and what did not. How? Because he understood viscerally what most of us only understand abstractly. Time is the one resource you cannot make more of. You can earn more money. You can rebuild your health. You can repair damaged relationships, but you cannot get back a wasted hour. He wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. We are not given a short life. We make it short through the way we spend it. Think about your own life. Think about the hours that vanish into scrolling through feeds that leave you feeling vaguely worse than before. The meetings that could have been emails. The conversations that are really just mutual complaining that changes nothing. The television consumed not because it brings joy, but because it is easier than thinking. Marcus is not saying you must be productive every second. Rest matters. Play matters. Doing nothing in particular matters. But doing those things intentionally, choosing them, is completely different from letting your time leak away through distraction and drift. Guard your hours. Spend them on what you would be willing to put your name to. Spend them on things that, when you look back, you will be glad you gave your life to. Rule number 8. Live according to nature, meaning your human nature. This rule sounds abstract until you understand what the Stoics actually meant by it. They did not mean go hike in the woods, though that might also help. They meant this. Human beings have a specific nature. We are rational, social creatures. We are capable of reason, of love, of contribution, of growth. Living according to your nature means living in a way that exercises and honors those capacities. It means using your mind seriously, not just consuming entertainment and avoiding difficulty. It means engaging genuinely with other people, not just performing connection while remaining emotionally unavailable. It means contributing something, making something, building something, not merely accumulating. Marcus came back to this idea again and again. He believed that when we are miserable, it is often because we are living in a way that contradicts our nature. We are treating ourselves as isolated individuals when we are built for community. We are avoiding thinking when thought is the thing that makes us distinctly human. We are pursuing empty pleasures, wealth beyond what we need, recognition beyond what serves any real purpose, things that the rational part of us knows will not satisfy. The Stoic idea of virtue was not about being morally perfect. It was about functioning fully as a human being. The way a knife functions well when it cuts, the way an eye functions well when it sees clearly. A human being functions well when they reason clearly, act justly, love genuinely, and contribute to the community they are part of. Ask yourself honestly, in your daily life, are you functioning as a full human being? Are you using your mind or numbing it? Are you connecting or performing? Are you building something or just passing time? Living according to nature means choosing the thing that exercises your best capacities over the thing that is merely easy or comfortable. Rule number 9. The obstacle is the way. This is perhaps the most famous Stoic insight that Marcus Aurelius embodied, and it is the one that many people find hardest to actually believe. He wrote that the impediment to action advances action, that what stands in the way becomes the way. Every difficult situation contains within it the precise qualities you need to develop. Every obstacle is also an invitation. The business that fails teaches you what success requires. The relationship that ends reveals what you actually need and value. The illness that slows you down forces you to examine what you have been running past. The rejection that stings shows you where your self-worth was built on unstable ground. Marcus faced real obstacles, not motivational poster obstacles. He led armies through freezing winters. He watched his children die. He governed through plague that killed millions. He dealt with political betrayal from people he trusted. And, through all of it, he kept returning to this practice. Not asking, why is this happening to me? But asking, what does this ask of me? That is the entire shift. Not passive acceptance of suffering. Not pretending the obstacle is not real. But an active, searching engagement with what the difficulty is calling you toward. The person who loses their job and spends 6 months in resentment and self-pity comes out the other side diminished. The person who loses their job and spends 6 months asking what this might be clearing space for, what skills they could build, what kind of work they actually want, comes out the other side transformed. The circumstances were identical. The orientation was everything. Now, before we close, let us step back and look at these 9 rules together, because they form something coherent. They are not a list of unrelated tips. They are a complete way of being in the world. Rule 1 says your mind is the seat of your freedom. Rule 2 says act now with what you have. Rule 3 says see people clearly and serve them anyway. Rule 4 says remember your mortality so you do not squander your days. Rule 5 says do right regardless of approval. Rule 6 says control your process and release your attachment to outcomes. Rule 7 says treat your time as sacred. Rule 8 says live in a way that honors your full human nature. Rule 9 says use obstacles as fuel. What Marcus Aurelius was describing across all these rules is a person who is free. Not free in the sense of having no obligations or no pain or no difficulty. Free in the deepest sense. Free from being controlled by fear, by the need for approval, by the desire to avoid discomfort, by the illusion that happiness lives somewhere in the future when circumstances improve. That kind of freedom is available to you right now. Not after you get the promotion, not after the relationship heals, not after you figure out some final answer. It is available in this moment, in the way you choose to meet what is in front of you. Marcus Aurelius was not a saint. He made mistakes. He had doubts. He experienced grief and exhaustion and frustration. The Meditations are not the writings of someone who had conquered his inner life. They are the writings of someone who was still fighting for it every day, the same way all of us are. That is why they are still read 2,000 years later. Because the struggle is the same struggle. The temptation to avoid what is difficult, to seek comfort over growth, to live on the surface rather than at depth, to let other people's opinions determine your sense of worth. These are not modern problems. These are human problems. And the practices that Marcus Aurelius returned to every single morning are still the most reliable answers we have. Start with one, just one of these 9 rules. Take it into tomorrow, see what it changes. Because the philosophy of Stoicism was never meant to be admired from a distance. It was meant to be practiced in the kitchen, in the office, in the difficult conversation, in the moment when everything in you wants to react in the old way and you pause, just for a second, and you choose differently. That pause is the whole practice. That pause is where your character is built. And Marcus Aurelius spent his entire life in that pause, trying, failing, trying again, writing it all down in the dark, so that one day people like you and me might find it and remember that it has always been possible to live better, to think more clearly, to suffer less unnecessarily, and to move through this short and uncertain life with a little more grace.